604 Records presents Verses, and I am this week's host, Ingrid Borges, today with Felix from Holy Felix. How's it going, Felix?
Fantastic. How are you, Ingrid?
I'm good. I'm a little cold, so I apologize if I'm jittery, but
feels good. Right? I like it.
And so I want to start from the very beginning and just ask, like, when did you first start making music, even like as a kid?
There's a photo of me as like a 1-year-old with a little guitar, toy guitar. So I always just say it's like my entire life. The whole time I've been doing this. There's never been a moment where I wasn't trying some sort of musical endeavor.
Do you know if there's like a first song or anything? Like, did you?
Yes. The first song I ever wrote is I feel like most people's first song would be embarrassing. Mine's extra embarrassing. It's called Power Clouds. And every once in a while I'll go back and listen to it just to humble myself entirely.
Is that an original?
Yeah. I wrote it when I was like 11. Actually, that's not true. You know what? I used to write parodies songs. I was like obsessed with Weird Al as a little kid. Mm-hmm. And so I started taking my own, or taking pop songs and making them into little parodies. And it kind of got me started into the whole experience, I think. I actually still have all of them. I was taking out some old notebooks recently and like reading through. They're all kind of violent, I noticed. Like one of them was, do you believe? It was either that or a different Cher song, but it was really kind of violent. It was all about like killing Cher. And it was something about trying to like snipe her and she kept moving or something. And I actually remember a conversation with my dad and stepmom where they were like confronting me on that. They found it and they were like, what the hell is this?
Now is Holy Felix ever going to do a parody album?
I think definitely, yeah.
Now that you have all this notebook full of material, right?
I could just redo it. Yeah, absolutely. 100% I will.
Did you like do music in high school or anything?
Yeah, I was like a jazz nerd in high school and middle school. And I did all that stuff and, played in like jazz competitions and all that. So it definitely gave me some chops, although I didn't stick to that at all.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start Holy Felix?
Just 2 years ago. I had been making a whole bunch of demos. I've always been making demos. And there was just something about these kind of more angry, intense ones that was sticking out to people. So it kind of like pretty naturally was born from just being angry and making songs. And then they needed a name. And the whole thing just kind of sprouted randomly. I feel like this whole band has been an accident, which is kind of like, it's always annoying in interviews when people say that because it's like, oh, we just accidentally got signed. And you're like, what? How do you get, like, tell me the steps. But it was one of those things where it just kind of was super organic and even the name and the logo, everything just kind of happened. I feel like I've been kind of a passenger to this project.
Can I ask about the name and the band logo? Like, was that anybody's idea or just?
Yeah, I mean, like the way I justify the whole logo and the name, it's everything I'd ever made before musically has always been kind of religiously themed. Not because I'm religious, but because I have a bit of an obsession with it. And I think it just kind of bleeds into my music, whether it's, organized religion or just the concept of God. It just comes through. It always has. Like everything I listen back and it's just like, you always were talking about this in some way, just the language I use. So it just came super natural. And Father John Misty took father, so I couldn't be Father Felix. I went through a bunch of prefixes until I landed on Holy. And then the logo is like the weirdest thing that ever happened. I was walking to a SkyTrain station and I stopped walking and I just drew it on my phone. It was like a lightning bolt hit me. It was weird because it just seems so obvious.
I like it though.
Right?
Yeah.
I like it too. It's just kind of like.
It's a cross and an F for anybody that doesn't know. Yeah.
There was no other logo. It just had to be. So again, it felt kind of like I was a passenger in a weird sort of mysticky kind of way.
Awesome. Would you say Holy Felix has like a vibe or an aesthetic to it? Because I've seen like you on stage and it seems like it, but like, is that intentional or just once again an accident?
Yeah, I think that part's pretty intentional. One of the first shows I ever saw was 9 Inch Nails. And I think it really kind of influenced everything about what I do creatively, borderline copying 9 Inch Nails in some ways. But I'm heavily influenced by them and Smashing Pumpkins and Soundgarden and bands like that. And I think if you kind of look back at their aesthetic, there's a pretty obvious thread there. But decided to really lean into the religious thing and kind of go full priest on stage. I was just trying to do something that I would enjoy as like an audience member. I spent a lot of years in a punk band where we just wore t-shirts and shorts kind of. And at some point in my career, I just felt like if people are paying to see you, you should dress up, give them the full package. Don't just show up off the street and play like that's amateur. You got to make it worth money, I think. So I started like making my bandmates wear white and I don't know. I like it. It looks cool in pictures.
Definitely. Yeah. The black and white contrast as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of playing shows, I know that you opened up for Fake Shark and Hotel Mira when they did their sold out show at the Commodore, which is huge. But like, what's it like being an opening band? Is it hard? Because I've been to shows, I see the opening band. It's not always full. Like, is it hard to get that vibe from the band or you just do your thing?
I mean, first of all, I was expecting it to be like people filing in and like going to coat check. But it was like completely full when I was on stage, which was kind of a testament to their fans, I feel like. In fact, I have to say like Hotel Mira and Fake Shark's fans are like some of the coolest. I don't know. It's just that you look at photos and videos and there's no phones out. Everybody was very engaged, like specifically that crowd, which was cool. But I've played so many shitty shows in my life that I kind of just have the same philosophy I've always had, which is like, even if it's just like my mom and the bartender at the show, I'm just going to play it as if there's a stadium full of people. So I feel like it's important if you're going to do this thing, you got to be able to just play like crazy no matter what. I've played shows at 10 a.m., in a park before. Because when we were younger, we played in this punk band and we just got booked for the weirdest shows. I have so many weird shows in my history that like, I don't know, this felt like just, it felt like the perfect experience.
Do you ever get like nervous?
Yeah, but I think it's kind of interesting to me because I think when you get feelings like nerves, it's kind of like this adrenaline shot, which I'm super used to because I did like speeches as a little kid and I was in plays and all that stuff. So I kind of I'm like very familiar with that sensation and it very much happens, especially before the Commodore. But you can kind of like move the sensation. I've learned over time where you can sort of take it from your gut where it's like trembling and making you kind of shake and sort of move it to somewhere else, like both physically and emotionally and just turn it into excitement instead. Because I think like anxiety and excitement are like almost the exact same feeling. It's just like the perspective you put on one of them. So I've always just kind of decided to like, you know what, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. So
awesome. Do you think like, because I know you headlined the show in Kelowna, is it a different vibe being an opening band and then doing like a headlining set or you put on the same show? Yeah, I mean, I do. I put on the same show 100%. I think the only difference with that particular pair was when I played the Commodore, it was like, I'm brand new at the label. This project is brand new in general. So I didn't want to, normally when I'm headlining, I come out and there's this big intro and there's fog and lightning bolts and fucking videos and stuff, which I did in Kelowna. I like the kind of being super dramatic, but at the Commodore, that just felt like, you know what? I have to like kind of earn my place on this stage. I didn't want to come out to a bunch of people who had no idea who I was and act like I was the main band. So in that case, it was like, there is a difference because you have to be a little bit humble, I think. You can't like act like you're too cool for the crowd, which I felt like I would have been doing. I wanted to earn it. So I kind of went in a little bit soft. That's nice. Yeah. And like, since you're from Kelowna, do you find there's a difference between the crowd or like the music scene compared to Vancouver? Yeah. I mean, I left Kelowna because there wasn't a music scene. I feel like we just missed it. My kind of cohort of bands, there was a whole bunch of like hardcore and punk bands that happened there, like Stutterfly and Prior. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they had a big moment. And there was definitely a scene there, but I was too young, missed it. And by the time we were playing, it was like just
kind of a dead zone. So going back there, people clearly care and they want to come out. And we definitely were like surprised with how many people showed up. And also at the Revelry is a brand new venue there that I was so impressed by. Obviously people care about music over there, but historically kind of not at all. Yeah.
Do you remember like being a teenager? Like how would you find music out in Kelowna?
For me, I had two older brothers, much older brothers. So everything I found was like in their stinky bedrooms. And like, I literally would sneak into them and like rifle through their things and find like Offspring and like Black Sabbath and all these like CDs. But as just a Kelowna kid, I mean, I actually grew up on the west side, which is like kind of nowhereville. There's no A and B sound or anything like that. So I was just sort of, I think we were kind of the internet dork generation. So I was big into, burning CDs and torrenting and all that stuff. So actually surprisingly found a ton of music that way. Like bands that I still listen to this day that just came up on Napster, and I like accidentally downloaded and they ended up becoming my favorite bands. Like a couple that come to mind. My favorite musician of all time is this guy called Dax Riggs, who I feel like nobody really knows about it. The fans of his his fans are obsessed with him, but like the world doesn't really know about him. But I found him through just downloading stuff on Napster. It just came up and it became this like lifelong obsession with this guy. So it's just surprisingly like easy to run into new music that way, I think.
Cool. Yeah. I feel like kids these days are kind of spoiled because it's so easy, but I feel like it's not as fun in that way as well.
Yeah, I feel like our parents probably said the same thing about us. So yeah, I don't know.
True. So I know you have this new song behind Believe Your Eyes, correct?
Yeah.
And it's produced by Kevy from Fake Shark and Mike Noble from Hotel Mira, who you played with at the Commodore. So it's like, when did this song, like the collaboration happen? Was it in advance before the show and then you knew you were going to do the song?
So this whole label experience kind of began with Kevy and Mike taking me under their wing. Before I was even like, there was no guarantee that I was going to be signed or anything. They just decided that they liked what I was laying down. So they helped me make this EP that we kind of like pitched to the label and they liked. But most of the songs I had already written, in fact, just about all of them, I had written and recorded, self-produced, which is something that I've kind of worked my whole life to be able to do. Unfortunately, I'm only about 65% of the way there to being able to like release my own wave file. So Kevy and Mike came in and they kind of did what a great producer does. They cut all the fat off the songs, emphasized the good parts. And then we sent half of it to Ben Kaplan and half to Ryan Worsley. Ben Kaplan did Believe Your Eyes. And it's great because he's got this like specifically kind of dark thing that he does. And if you look back in his catalog too, it's cool being in the list of bands on his catalog because there's definitely a darkness to a lot of it, which makes me happy.
Awesome. But I know you said that you kind of got the record label signing by accident, but can I kind of ask how that process is like? Because as someone who doesn't do music, I'm like, how do you get a record deal?
Yeah, I would ask that to you probably a year ago or anyone. I had no idea. I still don't really know. I feel like my only answer to that for me is like 15 years of nonstop failure, like just failing forward basically until you bump into some opportunity. I don't think there was any plan other than that. I'll give myself a little bit of credit because I actually started working in tech a few years ago. And something about working at like startups and seeing these like young CEO guys kind of like risk everything, like take out big loans, rent out an office and like delegate workers. It just sort of like gave me this framework on maybe a new way to have a band. So when I started it, it was like, I was just about turning 30 and I felt like that's, you're just running out of time, which I think is bullshit. I don't think there's like a time limit on musicians, but For stuff like getting signed, there might be, you know? So I kind of felt like I needed to really take it serious and treat it like it was my own startup. And, you know, we did exactly that. And I guess just like networking with people in Vancouver, I essentially gave myself a year to just like meet everybody. I went to every jam night and every party, a lot of nights, you know, 7 a.m. nights around town. It was an intense year, but it directly led me to all these people that brought me here. So I think a combination of like, take it serious, don't wear shorts on stage, plus meet everybody. I think that's the key. You know, I think it's a key for any industry, it seems. You know, of all the jobs I've ever gotten in my life, and this kind of feels like a job in a way, like you're getting hired, they've all been because of who I knew and never because of my resume. So I think it's the same with record label.
Cool. And just to wrap things up, I just want to ask like what you got going on next.
Yeah. So this EP is coming out. It's called 7. And it's very exciting to me because it's kind of the amalgamation of like all the things I've ever done. And all my friends who have been with me along the journey have echoed that as well. And it makes me very proud. So once 7 is out, I'm going to begin the process of working on my full length album, which I'm, you know, kind of in the middle of now. Still searching for who's going to guide us on and produce it. But we're going to make a full length album. We're going to tour Canada. And then we're going to go back home to Kelowna and play the stadium there.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for chatting with me. And thanks for watching. That has been 604 Records Presents Versus with Ingrid and our guest Felix from Holy Felix. Awesome.
Thank you, Ingrid.